small section, but super power packed and has a lot of important verses, very what do you call, like many famous verses and concepts in there. So let's just get them. So in these verses, Arjuna directly starts with the question like, yeah, I want to do my duty, but what is that stops me from? So last week also we did see in the previous thing, what is the strength of my character? So strength of the character is required to do one's duty, because otherwise we are very distracted, even though we know what is the right thing to do. A student wants to study, or a or others, they want to do their respective duties, but it just like feels sometimes like distracting, especially the mind. So that's one major reason that people are not able to perform their duties well. So that is the question of Arjuna, that where he says like, what is my what is the reason that I feel like, even though I know what is the right thing to do, I'm not able to do it perfectly. I'm sorry. So Arjuna is inquiring about the obstacles to engaging in one's duty. So that is the overall theme. And Krishna responses in first he speaks about the role of modes of passion and ignorance. He says Kamayesha, Krodayesha, Rajoguna Samudbhava, Maharshano Papma, Vidyena Mihavairinam. Okay, somebody just needs to be muted. Yes. So he says in the verse 37 that how it is the modes of passion and ignorance that actually stops one from being uh, being able to do one's duty. So that is the reason that we feel. Let me just stop the share so it's much easier for me to get it. So the verses 37 and 39. So Krishna is speaking about the role of lust. He says how, because of the modes of passion and ignorance, that one is not able to, even though they know what is the right thing to do, they are not able to follow it, or they are not able to keep it up. So these two modes and passion. So far Krishna has not introduced about the knowledge about the three modes. It's going to come only later in the Bhagavad Gita, like the chapter 14. We are going to see in detail chapter 14 and chapter 17, chapter 18. We will see about the three modes in detail. However, Krishna is for the very first time, even though in verse 27 in this chapter, he introduced that Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvashaha Ahankara Vimudatma Karta Hamiti Manyate. He introduced in many places the three modes of material nature, but very specifically, he invokes them as the reason for the uh, mental disturbance. The mind is being disturbed specifically through these two modes. So then what is the and then he explains in these verses. So in verse 37 he spoke about the modes of material passion specifically, and then it turns into anger. Like lust can turn into anger. Like we all want something, maybe we want ice cream, but or we want I'm just giving the easiest example. In life we have so many wants, but we want that. When that is not available, then there is frustration, there is anger. So that's what Krishna is explaining. So we have certain desires, and those desires actually lead to anger, and this completely upsets the flow of life. So he is trying to make us aware what's going on inside. What are those desires which are against the flow of duty? So that is causing all the disturbance. So he wants us to look inside and see, oh, what is that which is against the current of my duty? And he gives the example. So as fire is covered by smoke, a mirror is covered by dust, as the embryo is covered by womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this passion. So we all know fire is covered by smoke, and it's still you can experience the heat and the warmth of the fire. So this is referring to mode of goodness. A mirror is covered by dust, so it's representing the mode of passion. But the embryo is covered by the womb. To reach out to the baby inside the womb is not very easy. So that's the thickest covering. So that is mode of ignorance. So mode of ignorance is very thick. It's not very easy to penetrate. And the mirror covered by dust. Okay, we cannot see the mirror, but the dust could be removed comparatively easier. And a fire covered by smoke, yes, it may not be fully visible, but the heat and the warmth is still present. So the mode of goodness is much better. There is some lust, but it is not too much. In mode of passion, it could be overcome, but mode of ignorance is like very strong. So there are degrees of lust that different people can have. So he says the the living entity's consciousness actually becomes covered by this mode of passion, and it is never satisfied. You start fulfilling it, it just keeps increasing. Like how there is a small fire, you add fuel to it, it keeps increasing. Similarly, this passion, when it is attended to, when it is actually satisfied, it does not become quenched. Rather, it actually increases and actually devours one's whole life. So that is what is the nature of lust. He explains in the verse 37, 38, and 39. So first of all, he explained how mode of passion and ignorance is the problem, and then he says there are various degrees. Different people can have different degrees, but any degree, if a person thinks, oh, let me just fulfill it, it does not go down, it actually increases. One thing leads to another thing, and the other thing leads to another thing, so it just keeps increasing. So he's saying best is to actually regulate it. So that's when in the 40th verse and 41st verse he speaks about how to handle it. So the nature and the influence of it. He says the senses, the mind, intelligence, these are actually the sitting places, and the passion actually covers the real knowledge of the living entity, that it is a spirit soul and it has a connection with the super soul, and by in that connection there is real happiness. All this knowledge is covered, and then by covering the knowledge it bewilders the living entity. And he says that is why how to overcome this is to regulate the senses. He says that is the mode of goodness level. Regulate the senses. Otherwise, this will become a big block, or a dead block to engaging in one's duty. And the verses 42 and 43, the last two verses, he specifically speaks about the hierarchy of self control. That is the working senses. So this is verse 42. He says, Indriyani paranyahur indriyabhya param manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. So here he says, matter, any general matter is inert. It does not have free will on its own. It has the energy potential to be activated. However, it does not have uh, it does not have the personal ability to act. So that is why it is matter. It has inertia. It is inert. And our senses, like my eyes, my what do you call my ears, all these things are also matter. but because they are in touch with the sense, with the soul, but they are different from this table that I'm using, this laptop that I'm speaking through. So my eyes, my ears, my nose, they are also matter. However, they are a different quality of matter. They are not as simple as dealing with a wood or a what do you call, or a sand or something. So that is the, though both are matter, because the sense is in touch with the soul, it is a higher quality matter. So indriyani paranyahur, matter is higher than the senses is higher than the matter, and the mind is higher than the senses. Wherever the mind is, the senses become controlled. Say for example, sometimes your parents call out to you, you just don't, you can't hear them because you're focused on your video game, or you're focused on in your studies, something. All our mind is focused on something. So even if somebody is calling out to us, the ears are open, still you don't hear because the mind is somewhere. So that is why where we are, the wherever the mind is, that's where we are, because the senses become follow the mind. However, when you know it's ekadashi, and even if there is like best of the foods, you know, okay, today is fasting, I'm not supposed to eat this. So we develop that determination because our intelligence knows. Or sometimes you go out, like you go to Whole Foods, you look at a particular thing and you say, oh wow, this looks nice, and then you look at the ingredients and you see some of the ingredients we means it's not suitable, so you feel like, oh no, this is not healthy, I don't want this. So immediately, because now there is intelligence, immediately that mental attraction of the mind can be overcome through the intelligence. Oh, this is not healthy for me, so I don't want to eat this. So when intelligence is strong, you can overcome the mind. But Krishna says, indriyabhya means indriyani paranyahur, indriyabhya param manaha, manasastu para buddhir, parata means even the soul is actually paratastu saha. The soul is actually higher than the intelligence. And Krishna is the supreme soul, is even higher than this soul. So this is the hierarchy of self-control. If we want to control anything lower, then we have to be situated on the higher platform. So when the soul gets connected to Krishna, then its intelligence is strong, and through a strong intelligence, it can control the mind and the senses. And through this hierarchy, it can overcome the influence of modes of passion and ignorance. That's what Krishna is explaining in the 43rd verse. He says, how do you overcome temptations? So that is essentially the 43rd verse that we just described. Connect with Krishna, steady the intelligence, and with strong intelligence, control the mind and senses. So that is the conclusive verse of the this chapter. So then we'll just discuss few what do you call, themes that we could take from this section of the Bhagavad Gita. And so one of the themes that is very relevant and what Krishna and Arjuna are discussing is the keys to self mastery, or you call it self control, or you call it overcoming temptations. It is basically Krishna is explaining through this 3R formula. He says, recognize, regulate, and reconnect with Krishna. So if you see the verses 40 and 41 especially, he speaks about regulating, recognizing. In the 31, what do you call it, 37, 38, 39, 40, he spoke about recognizing. 41, he spoke about regulating. And then 43, he spoke about reconnecting with Krishna. So this is the whole hierarchy that Krishna also spoke about, recognizing our triggers. And that's where the role of self-awareness comes in. We understand what actually disturbs us, what actually distracts us. So we kind of have a list. Okay, this thing distracts me, this thing takes away my time, this thing makes me powerless when I encounter it. So then we first recognize the triggers and we minimize our exposure to it. We regulate our day, we have a schedule, we have various ways we create accountability so that we minimize the interaction with the trigger, and we have an alternative when we encounter the trigger. So that is what is recognizing the trigger. And main thing which will help us is to regulate our lifestyle, like through having a proper time to wake up, to proper time going to sleep, to doing various things, planning the day, and having things to be busy with. And then, so in this way, having a day which is productive, which is healthy, and which is what you call, like, which is uh, compatible to our spiritual lives. In that way, by regulating our lifestyle, also we can minimize the we'll be able to handle the triggers gradually. And more than anything, we also set aside time to connect with Krishna. We chant Hare Krishna, we do some worship, or we study some Gita, or we associate with devotees, hear lectures, go for programs, do kirtan, personally sing at home if you cannot go to a temple daily basis. So engaging in these devotion practices by connecting with Krishna, the soul feels very satisfied. The soul, when in connection with Krishna, feels naturally satisfied. So its intelligence is strong, its mind and senses are controlled, and so we can do what we would like to do with our day. We are not being distracted. So that is the whole formula, that once you satisfy the soul, then naturally the intelligence becomes stronger. How does that happen? We don't need to worry much about it, because this is what Krishna is explaining, and the practical experience also. The moment the soul feels satisfied, the intelligence becomes stronger, and the distractions naturally fade away. So this is the practical experience of practitioners also. So yes, recognizing your triggers is important, and being self-aware is important. Having a regulated lifestyle is important. However, reconnecting with Krishna is also extremely crucial. But somebody may say, oh, I'll just connect with Krishna and have a, a kind of a chaotic lifestyle. Then your connection with Krishna will help, but it will not be sustainable because the lifestyle is against it. So all the three are very important. Each one has their role if we want to actually achieve a sustainable level of self mastery. Swarit?
Prabhuji, you said that we have to reconnect with Krishna in general. What if we believe in like another god or something? Like let's say Shiva or something. Can we reconnect with them, and will this have the same effects as it says in the chat in your presentation?
It's Thank you, Swarit, for the question. It's a whole other topic. But in general, yes, some amount of spiritual connection will surely help. But here, when Krishna is placing himself, like, he clearly says, like, connecting with him, because that is the nature of the soul. But still, you are new to the practice, and you still have your affiliations or affections for Lord Shiva or Lord Ganesh and all these famous personalities like that we worship in the Hindu tradition. It's okay, start somewhere. But I wouldn't say that it's a problem for you to actually chant like a mantra. Like, how, say for example, you may be worshiping Shiva, but if somebody says for your health you drink this thing, you don't see that as like kind of contradictory. So you can worship Shiva, but include you can continue to chant. Just you think like, okay, I'm this is a formula that is given in the Bhagavad Gita, so let me try it as such. And apart from the time you have some you want to connect with, yeah, you can continue to worship. Eventually you will have more clarity. So take the formula, we don't need to tweak it. And if you want to worship Shiva, yes, there is still some time that you could connect with. So there is nothing, I don't see it as a contradictory, but you can start with.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So in this way, if we strengthen the intelligence through our connection with Krishna, then gradually regulating the senses and regulating the mind becomes natural. And this is a relevant issue for every single one in this world on a day-to-day basis. So, so there are various levels of temptations, and I'm not sure this is very technical. We do have 20 minutes. Okay, so bear with me. This can sound very technical, but this is kind of the levels that an individual goes through, like ignorant indulgence. We know something is we don't even know something is good or bad. We just like it and we eat it. Say for example, French fries. Means who cares? Like initially it's that we don't even know that it is like not good for our health, so we just indulge. Anytime you see potatoes in any form, they're going inside. So that's how usually kids are. That's how I grew up also, whether it in the form of chips or whether it in the form of curry, something, as soon as you say potatoes, they have to go in. That's it. So it's like in kind of an ignorant indulgence. You don't think about health and all that. But as you grow, if you age, you really understand, okay, I'm gaining too much weight. I need to control. So there is an emerging awareness that yes, this thing is may not be the best thing for me, but still, like, you have this voice inside you, who cares? So then that is the conflict. And on the other side, you feel, oh my god, this is not the great for me. But on the other side, you're also having another voice saying, who cares? So both these voices are inside, and who cares voice is slightly louder. So you enjoy in a conflicted enjoyment stage. And then there is a reluctant abstinence. You really, reality is hitting home that, oh no, this is really not good for me. So you're like trying your best, even though you don't have the full internal strength. You're trying your best to stay away from it, and gradually, through your practice, through your determination, you come to a place where you can clearly say no. No means no. I don't want this. This is not healthy for me. I'm not going to do this. So you come to a stage of resolute resistance. And if we have strong spiritual engagement, like many people without spiritual engagement can come to this stage of resolute resistance. You go through people who are doing like a 21-day workout challenge, or like losing weight or gaining weight, or so giving up. Like there are so many anonymous organizations. So it is not just it's not that without spiritual practice people cannot develop any determination. They can develop, they can come to the level of resolute resistance, but it's very difficult to just continue to be resolutely resisting temptations without having a higher taste. So that's where spiritual engagement comes into picture. That's where actually Krishna gives this hierarchy of above the soul there is Krishna. We can strengthen the intelligence to some level, but to resolutely be determined and to be stably situated, that's spiritual engagement is a very necessary layer. So when we connect with Krishna, and we connect with through spiritual practices and satisfy the soul, so then there is a joyful renunciation, joyful giving up of those things which are not good for us. It will happen very naturally, organically, in a healthy way, in a sustainable way. So that is what is Krishna actually explaining through these verses, that yes, initially we are going to go through these stages. So regulation of the lifestyle and understanding our triggers, they are all very important. And side by side, when we engage in spiritual engagement, naturally we will come through these stages, and we will come to the eventually to the stage of joyful renunciation. And so the lessons is naturally regulating our senses is very important. We may be young or old. Many people think when we are young, all we need to do is get our maths together, get our sciences together, um, like go to these classes. Like nowadays, like the amount of pressure I see the kids go through, I feel like I'm glad to be born in the 80s and 90s. Because there is so much that kids have to do. They have to go to this class, a backers, and there's so many things that they have to do. Sometimes the joy of growing up, the joy of childhood is taken away with so much engagement and peer pressure and so many things that the kids have to do. So people think, oh, training in those things is very important. That is paramount. But nobody in the world thinks that actually training the kids for controlling the senses is also important. No, nobody thinks like that. The school is not having a subject of how to regulate your senses. No, they only start that through coaching when they are adults, and then there is like this whole self-help market outside. It is only geared towards, primarily most of the times what I see in my experiences, it is geared towards adults. It's they don't think it's a training that should be given from childhood. And that is actually a fallacy, because Prahlad Maharaj says you begin devotion service right from young age, because there is this saying that I have heard in my native language: a bamboo can be actually bent when it is young, not when it is old. So, so that's one reason that it's very important that that people start actually thinking that, yeah, regulating senses and spiritual life is very important right from small age. So even helping kids actually practice some amount of restraint, some amount of regulations is not bad, but it should be done with love and with guidance. However, the parents should also understand that giving spiritual training is very important. Of course, most of the parents here and the children here are already doing it, but that principle that, oh, regulating the senses or controlling the mind, these are all like actually we do, it's not very important in life. There are many other things like academics and athletic, and all these things are very important. Yeah, they are important, they're a very important part of life, but as important as those things are actually regulating the senses, controlling the mind, having a regulated lifestyle. So the more the parents give mode of goodness lifestyle and habits to the kids when they are young, uh, the better surety is there for the kids to have a peaceful life later. And that's why Krishna is saying strengthen the intelligence through spiritual connection. And so we all know this, like the whole life is an endeavor for finding happiness, but Krishna is saying here, let happiness find you. So let's connect with, like, instead of pursuing happiness, Krishna is saying pursue God, pursue connection with me, and happiness will find you deep in your soul, because it is the nature of the soul. As soon as the soul connects with God, the happiness is the byproduct of it. The world makes us think happiness is the primary commodity that we purchase. But but happiness is never the primary product. Happiness is always a byproduct. And that is why we see, okay, even in this world, that idea is there. You buy a soap and become happy, you buy this toothbrush, you buy this toothpaste, you buy this coat, you buy this scent, everything, then you can become happy. So that is, happiness is always a byproduct, but not the byproduct of sense satisfaction, byproduct of the soul satisfaction. So the satisfaction of the soul comes through its connection with God. So here Krishna is, what you call, changing the whole marketing strategy of the world by its head. Like he's turning it around. He's saying, no, it's not. Happiness is not the byproduct of sense satisfaction. It can be some amount, but not the real happiness. The real happiness is a byproduct of the soul satisfaction, and that satisfaction comes through its connection with God. So that's why Krishna is saying, let happiness find you. You find God, happiness will come behind you. So this is also another thing that Krishna mentions about in this section. We can try to understand. So one reflection exercise that we all could think is, how do I connect with Krishna daily? What kind of spiritual practices do I have that I connect with Krishna and then my soul is satisfied, and so that my intelligence is strengthened? So, how do I make this happen on a daily basis? What do I already do? So, we can think about that. And so, this is a quote like, connect with Krishna before connecting with the world. Like, the moment we all wake up, then we are all on the Wi-Fi. Like it is said in the past, like if you go to someone's home, you ask them, how are you? Today, one of the first questions is, can I have your Wi-Fi password? So it's such a common thing. Any guest who comes, like I experienced in the temple, any guest who comes, within the first 5 minutes, the question would be, can I have your can I have the Wi-Fi password? I go to someone's home for a program, I stay overnight. After the program is over, my first question is, can I have my Wi-Fi? Because life has become so interconnected with the world through all our services, personal, everything is so intermingled. So it's very difficult for us to understand who are we actually connecting with. So the clarity is like very blurred. So in our days, if we could make uh, time out that we connect with Krishna along with connecting with the world, or before connecting with the world, that's the best way we can make sure we are sane and stable to connect with the world. So our connection with the world could be much more stable, not with the strength of the Wi-Fi that we have, but with the strength of the mind that we have. So the stable connection with the world is through the internal strength. So that strength comes through connecting with Krishna. So this is all for this chapter. We did see this quote in the past. Like, we think enjoyment begins with the hope, means we actually begin with the hope that something out there will fill us instantly, especially the emptiness inside. However, the emptiness inside can only be filled with Krishna. It cannot be filled otherwise. So Krishna is explaining how through the process of bhakti yoga, karma yoga specifically, to be technically right in this chapter, that one can connect with. However, even for one to be able to connect with God through their work, through their duty, one needs to connect with Krishna. So he has made sure that bhakti is the foundation. So he has indirectly emphasized the importance of connecting with him or bhakti as the platform on which you perform even stably Nishkama Karma Yoga. So in this way, he has concluded this section for Arjuna, but don't think Arjuna is very easy to crack. He will continue the same what your topic. No, still I don't think I can fight, and I don't think I want to engage in this fight. So that will carry on for two more chapters. So the next two chapters are going to be pretty quick flowing because I have covered most of the basics in chapter 2 and 3. So those two other chapters can be, in my head, I'm seeing that within 3 weeks, two chapters could be easily covered. But let's see how it unfolds. However, there is no surety that we will have a class next week because I will be out for the weekend with the Indian congregation for a trip. So I don't know if there is going to be Wi-Fi. So let's see how it goes. So today I didn't give much chance for everybody to speak. So now you can, yes, Indra, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. The soul, okay, so you gave the matter, senses, mind, intelligence, and higher the intelligence is the soul. And I'm being a little dense in my head, connecting that to how is the soul higher than the intelligence? Because of its connection to Krishna or eventual connection to Krishna, or because I know right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, means your question is like, how is the soul higher than the intelligence, right? So if you consider intelligence, even though it is subtle, it's still material in one sense, but the soul is spiritual. So in that sense, it becomes, say for example, when the soul leaves the body, there is no question of the dead body being intelligent. And at the same time, this covering of the mind, intelligence, and ego is a subtle covering to facilitate the soul's interaction with the material world. It already has all these things internally. The soul has it. The soul has its original intelligence because it is Satchit Ananda. It has its intelligence. It has its emotional faculties. It has its identity. Everything is already there within the soul, but it is being given an external. Say, for example, if somebody wants to go to the space, and sign up with the SpaceX for a trip, then what is going to happen is like they will be given a suit. So the faculties are there inside, but an external suit facilitates its interaction with a foreign environment. Similarly, for the soul, the material world is a foreign environment. So though it has its intelligence, ego, and what you call mind, everything, it is the subtle layer is an external extension which is compatible with the material world. So that is why it is still extraneous to the soul and it is material. In that sense, the spirit is higher, the soul is higher than the intelligence. Does it make sense, Indramati?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. First Chakrayesh, then Purva.
Prabhuji, so my question is that so we have to control our emotions, right? But how are we like supposed to control them in like intense situations?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we like control our emotions?
So, like, if I get your question right, you're saying like we understand we have to control the modes, but when it is really like sometimes things are very intense. So how do we actually overcome it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is there is this particular what do you call saying which says those who sweat in peace does not bleed in war. So it's a gradual lifestyle. It does not happen overnight. We won't be successful all the times at all instances, but does not mean that we don't develop a conducive lifestyle. So that is why a mode of goodness lifestyle and a general awareness, reminding ourselves this is a very important aspect of our life. So general reminder and a conducive lifestyle, and take every instance as a test, like, okay, did I, like, we all go to gym, at least some of us probably. So then we come back and then we see in the mirror, okay, how much muscle have I developed, how much ripped I have become. So we just check our muscles. So it's not going to happen overnight. So still we do come and check, like as we keep doing some exercise, we think, oh, how much belly did I lose or how much biceps I gained. So we keep checking. Similarly, this is also a training for the mind. We go through the right lifestyle, we kind of remind ourselves regularly, we connect with Krishna daily, and then these instances are like test, are like mirror before you. So you can see, you can take it with that sportive spirit. So could I control my emotions? No, it's okay. Next time, let me try better. So it's just like life is like a game in that sense. So we are continuously learning, and we have more opportunities. There will be more people in life who will test your abilities, so don't worry. That will come daily, every now and then, through various people. So people will do that free service. So we can continue to check, is our, what do you call, is our schedule going, like, is our training going well?
Okay.
Does it make sense, Chakresh?
Yeah. Thank
Was
you,
it
Prabhuji.
good? Was it okay?
Yeah.
Purva, then Monal.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on Indira Devi's question when she asked how is intelligence not superior to the soul. I think that's because the soul is, it's not never born, nor does it die. It's eternal. It's eternal. Whereas intelligence is on the material level, right? As you said, it comes in the realm of Maya, I think, because I suppose the intelligence for for humans would be different from the intelligence of animals,
Mhm.
whereas the soul of an animal and the soul of a human being, it has just changed its body. Whereas the soul of an animal after it's dead and the soul of a human after the human is dead would just be the same. I mean, a soul would be a soul, but the intelligence of animals and humans would be different. So probably because of that as well, the soul is on a higher level than of intelligence,
Thank you,
I
Purva.
think.
It's a good argument. That's a good one. Thank you for sharing. I think next time some questions I can ask some of you to answer before I answer. That can that can also be nice. Yes. Thank you, Purva. Monal?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the class. I have a two-part question. So first one, how does meditation or japa in particular influence the mind and intellect? And then the other question I have is like what specific techniques are described in the Bhagavad Gita for calming the mind and sharpening the intellect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I get the question right, like you're saying, the first part of the question is like how the mind, like how does it actually connect these spiritual japa or these kind of spiritual practices actually strengthen the mind. So that is the first part question is, right? So
Yes.
so we probably have heard this answer many times. So have you heard this word mantra? Like we all chant a mantra. So the mantra, the word means mana trayate iti mantra, means is that which delivers the mind. So what we focus on during the japa is not just any random sound. That's why Srila Prabhupada in the first very lecture he gave, he speaks about the quality of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He says it is non-different from Krishna. That mantra is not just any random sound. So Prabhupada in his lecture, he says, oh, you can chant Coke, Coke, Coke for so many days, but you may not develop the same level of spiritual advancement by chanting Hare Krishna. He says this mantra is not just any word, but it is non-different from Krishna. For that matter, many mantras are there. And all those mantras in the Vedas are actually a personality. So specifically, we are speaking about Hare Krishna mantra. It is actually Krishna. By actually chanting, where the soul is in touch with God. And it is actually like, say for example, some things in life cannot be actually externally proven. But when you actually chant in a kirtan, or when you have an absorbed meditation, you can feel that settled feeling of the soul. Like you can feel like you feel very connected, and you feel very satisfied and sober. So that's a natural experience. You feel joy in a kirtan, you feel joy in a japa. You, apart from joy, you also feel very kind of sober. That is why both have their places, japa and kirtan, because kirtan usually brings out the joy of the soul, which is very higher, but still for it to be sustained, you need sobriety. So that's why japa is a everyday thing. And of course kirtan also supposed to be an everyday thing. So it's not just japa, it's not only kirtan. The combination is recommended because they both have their different, how they activate the nature of the soul. But in general, connection with Krishna through this mantra. That is why mantra is again being emphasized by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because you can do deity worship and feel connected. You can go to a dham like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri and feel connected. Or you can go to, like you can read Srimad Bhagavatam. You can be in the association of devotees. But mantra is something which is considered as the primary way to connect with God in this age, because it is available always at all times. So in that sense, a mantra is a very easy way to connect with in any, like even if you're in a hospital bed, or if you're in a school, or if you're in your own mind, if you want to connect to, still immediately you can connect with the mantra. So that is why the mantra is considered as a primary way of spiritual practice in this age of Kali Yuga. And it is non-different from Krishna. So when the soul is in touch with Krishna, it's in its original position. So because it's in its original position, it naturally feels satisfied. So the intelligence, mind, and the ego, they are all external coverings. They only have, like, they are all naturally under the control of the soul. Currently they have more control over us because they are not regulated. But the moment the soul is strongly connected with Krishna, naturally they take their own place. So the question, if I come back to how does this chanting of mantra actually strengthen the mind, or strengthen the intelligence and control the mind, is we you have to experience this practically, because this hierarchy does work in reality. That just by connecting the soul with Krishna, he says, savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata yatma suprasidati. So the sages in the Bhagavatam ask, how can this atma be satisfied? Yen atma suprasidati. So Shukadeva Goswami says, savai pumsam parodharmo, by executing the parodharma, savai pumsam parodharmo yatha bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata ye atma suprasidati. The atma becomes pleased, the atma becomes satisfied by connection with Krishna. Yato bhakti radokshaje. Adokshaja, the word means which is above the senses. Ada akshaja. Aksha means eyes. Ja means knowledge. Ja means that which is born. So the knowledge born of the senses, like eyes, ears, tongue, nose, this is how we gain knowledge, right? We see through, or we hear, we touch. So this is how we gain knowledge in this world. Krishna's name is Adokshaja because he defeats that material knowledge that is gained through the senses, because he stands above them. So by connecting with that Lord who defeats material knowledge, who is above material knowledge through the mantra, then naturally the soul becomes satisfied. So by that connection, actually the material level layers of intelligence and ego and mind naturally gets cleansed, naturally gets purified. This may not be the most technical answer I could give. However, I hope it is making you understand.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
This that does this answer your second part also?
The second part, it was just talking about specific techniques for calming the mind and sharpening the intellect, as described in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, on a normal day, you can write, you can do a journal, you can list of your triggers, you can list of your challenges. You become aware what is happening in your internally. What are your challenges? What are the problems? What do you actually find that you need to work on? So you write. That is a very practical kind of a technique. You write down so it becomes very clear. You can those things in a what do you call, in a confidential way you can share with people that will make difference or guide you, and also connect personally with take your spiritual practices personally seriously, and connecting with studying Srila Prabhupada books, hearing him, these kind of things can actually combine together, can work the magic of trying to be able to connect with Krishna and be satisfied. It's a gradual process, but these are the various steps. Make sense?
Thank you.
So I know this is late than usual. So thank you all for joining today, and thank you for your participation. And next week, if possible, we will take it. And if possible, during the next week, I'll work on the third chapter, conversational voice drama. And if I can get through the whole chapter, then we can do that next week. Otherwise, we will cancel the next week class and then continue from the following week with either with the drama or with the chapter 4. So very grateful for all of you for joining. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Thank you,
So,
Lord.
Prabhu,
Thank you.
oh, Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Prabhu. So
Krishna.
next week we should read all of chapter 4.
Sorry. Next week?
Next week we should read all. I mean, for next week's class, we should have read all of chapter 4.
At least some part of chapter 4, I would say. At least first 21 verses, 20, 22 until 25, 24, I would say. At least the first part I will handle it. If I'm able to take it, at least I'll take the first part, the first 24 verses. And the next part is going to be quite quicker, I would say. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Babaji. Thank you for the class.
Thank you. Thank you, Harsha.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Babaji.
Thank you. Thank you, Harsha. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Damodar Vinod Prabhu. Thank you, Amrit Kishori. Thank you, Prabhu. See you, Chinmay Prabhu. Hare Krishna. We'll connect on WhatsApp.